Okay, gentlemen, Baruch Hashem, another Alshich shir. And this year was actually sponsored Leila Nishmas Moshe ben Leah. That was the name they had, Moshe ben Leah. So it should be Leila Nishmasai. So this week, the Alshich is going to discuss the first issues that the Jewish people had as a nation. Meaning last week the Jewish people left Egypt and they entered into their first tests and struggles as being a people. And as being a people, we're talking about as being human beings. These are a whole group of people that left Egypt as a group. They had no idea what was going to happen. They had no inclination of what was going to become of them. And all they know is that they had Hashem. And what was the first questions that they had? The first questions they had is shelter, security, and sustenance. Right? A group of people go into a desert. How are they going to have shelter? How are they going to have security? Who's going to watch them? And how are they going to sustain themselves in the desert? So we see that immediately, right away, when they left Egypt, just by leaving, they showed an act of emunah. They left. They had no idea what was going to be. And immediately their first need was what? Was shelter. So right away Hashem sends them the Anan and the Aish, the cloud by day and the fire by night. So right away, the minute they leave, they find out something they couldn't have imagined, something they couldn't have even fathomed, that God is going to send them immediately down shelter. A cloud by day, climate control to protect them, to make them feel comfortable. Without nothing, all they got to do is go, and Hashem showed them, I'll take care of you. Then a short while later, what happens? They find themselves in a situation where their security is at threat. They're in a situation where they don't feel secure. What's going on? The Egyptians are chasing them. They got the snakes and scorpions on either side, and the other side of them is water. And again, Hashem shows them that you just have to do a little bit of effort and show emunah, and I will take care of everything in ways that they couldn't even imagine. So they start screaming out to Hashem. And what does Hashem say? Just go. Go into the ocean, go into the Yam Suf, and you will see that I will do a miracle for you. They didn't understand how this is going to happen. They couldn't fathom how this is going to happen. But they walk into the ocean, and again, everyone knows the famous medrash that until it went up to Nachshon ben Aminadav's lips, the water was still there, and then suddenly a miracle, and God figured out a way, and the sea split. So again, Hashem showed them that your security is taken care of. But the third thing, which is what I would like to discuss today, is parnasa. How did they have sustenance? So a short while, about a month after they left Egypt, their food rations ran out. And they davened to Hashem and they said, where are we going to have food from? We're in the desert. How are we going to have sustenance? Where are we going to be able to provide for ourselves and our family? There's no way to make money out here. There's no way to grow anything. What are we going to do? So again, immediately Hashem shows them that there's nothing to worry about. With a minimal amount of, or hopefully not a minimal amount, but with emunah, Hashem will take care of your exact needs. And this is what the Alshich talks about. He says that there are several lessons that we could learn for us today and forever about how a Jew, how the Jewish nations should look at the idea of parnasa, at the idea of making money, at the idea of making sure to sustain for their family. Because again, the Jews in the desert was just the story of the Jewish people forever. We still need security, we still need shelter, and we still need food. So Hashem was showing us that there's nothing to worry about. Before we even got the Torah, the first thing you have to know is that you're secure, that I'm watching you, that I've got your back. And even sometimes in ways you'll never imagine. And that is what Hashem is showing them in the beginning of the desert. So the question is, what can we learn from the story of the Manna, the story of the Jews in the desert? What can we learn about how we ought to look at making a living, parnasa, and making sure that we have what we need? So he says the first thing we should look at is the very first pasuk. The pasuk says, "Vayomer Hashem al Moshe nimamtu lechem lechem min hashamayim They would collect each and every day. So the first thing he says is that a person only has to worry about, really only have to worry about what you need for today. Because Hashem makes sure to provide each and every person for that day what he needs. And you have to do your Hidabroot, you have to do a little bit of effort just for that day and worry just about that day. You don't have to worry so much about what's going to be. Because Hashem could send you tomorrow the next thing. You don't know what's going to be tomorrow. You have no idea what Hashem could come up with, different ways that he can give you. Every day Hashem sends what you need. Devar yom b'yom. So what is you should collect each day for what you need that day. The second thing we see with the man is that Hashem said to go out and specifically collect for what you need. And it says specifically that if you try, like people did try, to come back with more man than you deserve, or you accidentally took less man than you deserved, in the end of the day when you got home, exactly what was supposed to be there was there. Ish kafi achlei. Exactly what each person deserved, ish kafi achlei. Each person according to what he needed to eat. What he deserved is what he got. So even if you got more, you weren't supposed to take more. You got back home, it was exactly what you needed. And even if you took less, you got back home, and suddenly more food appeared. What is that similar to? A person thinks he makes more money. A person thinks he got a good deal, but he didn't really deserve it. It wasn't made in the right way. It wasn't really honest. And he feels, oh, I made an extra $2,000. You know, I beat the system. And then the next thing he knows, maybe a short while later, he's in a car accident, a fender bender. What does it cost him? Exactly $2,000. So what is that showing you? That even if you think you got more, you come home and you realize at the end of the day, in the bank account is exactly what you were supposed to have. And sometimes the other way. Person feels like he had a bad quarter, he had a bad season, he's not making as much as he needs, and really supposed to be making more. And he comes home and his bank account looks empty, but then he realizes, oh my gosh, somebody put more money in, or a deal that shouldn't have gone through, or an old bill that somebody owed him money from a long time ago comes through. So he came home with less money, but at the end of the day, in the bank account is exactly what they're supposed to be there. Hashem gives you ishlif kifi achlei, according to exactly the needs. And the idea is that a person has to realize that when it comes to making parnasa, making money, you go out, you do basic Hidabroot, and this is from the Alshich. And of course, you try to do the best you can. But in the end of the day, it's not about your effort. It's not about how much you put in, because you could put in more time and make less money. You could put in less time, make more money. But the question is, and the Alshich asked the big question: why is it? Why is it in fact that some people have more money? Some people seem just to be richer. Some people seem everything they invest in turns to gold. And some people, no matter what they do, it doesn't go through. They work really, really hard. They put in a lot of effort. They do everything they're supposed to do. And in the end of the day, they're barely making ends meet. Some people have the mazel, they're born rich. Some people have the luck, they're born poor. And some people just can't change that. And sometimes it changes. Sometimes we see suddenly a person is rich and then he loses all his money. And sometimes a person is poor and suddenly out of nowhere, in his 50s, 60s, suddenly some things go through and he becomes very wealthy. Why is that? The age-old question. Why is that? How is that fair? How is that just? This is what the Alshich asked in this week's parsha. And the Alshich gives a very, very deep and important answer, not only for sustenance, not only for parnasa, but for really everything in life. And he quotes the pasuk in Eicha. The pasuk says, the exact pasuk, the pasuk says, from Hashem, from Hashem there is no evil that comes out. What does that mean? So he brings the pasuk in this week's parsha. The pasuk says, if you read the words carefully inside, Hashem says to Moshe, Hinni mamtir lechem lechem min hashamayim. I will rain down upon you bread from heaven. So the Alshich says, let's look at the word mamtir, rain down. What does that mean? I'm going to rain down from you. Mamtir, what is the word mamtir? I'm going to rain down from you bread from heaven. So he says we find that word actually 2 other times before this. We find it by Parshas Bay, when the Jews are still in Egypt, and Hashem is giving the 10 plagues upon the Egyptians. And the verse says, I am going to be mamtir, I'm going to rain down from you barad min hashamayim. Mamtir lachem barad min hashamayim. I'm going to rain down upon the Egyptians hail from heaven. That's the time before this it says the word mamtir. And what's another time it says the word mamtir? In Sodom. In the terrible city of Sodom, which needed to be destroyed, the verse says, I'm going to be mamtir, I'm going to rain down ish v'gafras, fire and ashes and sulfur, thank you, from heaven. So again, we see the word mamtir by the Jews with the man. We see the word mamtir by the Egyptians, by the Makkah of Barad, by the Makkah of the hill. And we see the word mamtir all the way in the beginning by Sodom. Says the Alshich something very, very profound and very, very important. He says that from Hashem, like we said the pasuk in Eicha, there is no evil that comes down. What does that mean? That from Hashem's perspective, all Hashem is doing is sending down energy. He's sending down shefa. He's sending down sustenance in a way, like a certain power. How you receive it is contingent on the vessel. How it's received is contingent on you. Meaning all Hashem is doing is He's sending down an energy. And for the Jews in the desert, that energy translated all the way down from heaven, and when it was received by the Jewish people, it was received as one of the most holy and special gifts that Hashem ever put upon man, the man. Because that's what they needed and that's what they deserved at that moment. And that was the best thing for them at that moment. For the Egyptians, with Hashem's ultimate wisdom of putting the 10 plagues on the Egyptians, Hashem again was mamtir. He sent down the energy. And what was it received as? It was received as the plague of hail, which again was fundamentally needed for the world and for the Egyptians, as a punishment for them, and also as what the world needed, as for the Jewish people and for everything, for all the reasons that we had the plagues. And that translated as hail. And for the people in Sodom, the best thing for them and what was needed for them because of their sins, and what was ultimately the greatest thing for them, was that it translated, and by the time they received it, this shefa, this rain that Hashem sent out, was translated as fire and sulfur. So he says that really, from Hashem's perspective, He's only sending down good the entire day. But the difference is how the person receives it. Who is receiving? That's how it becomes translated. On the way down, it's translated for the greatest need of the person. So that's the first thing you have to know, he says. He says that really from Hashem's perspective, He's sending everyone exactly what they need every single day. And as much as they need every single day. And it's only good. The reason we perceive things as bad is because in the end of the day, by the time it gets down, it changes into what's needed. Now we ask, why is it that some people, in fact, by the time the blessing comes down from heaven, it's not received as, let's say even good people, it's not received as tremendous amount of wealth. Some very fine Jewish people, we know, that they're not rolling in millions. That Hashem is sending it down, but when they receive it, it's not being received as such. And some people that maybe are not so deserving from our eyes, they are receiving the money in abundance, tremendous wealth and success. Why is that? So he says, in the end of the day, we don't really know all the different calculations of why Hashem has for some people that they have to live this type of life, and for other people they have to live a life of struggle, and other people have to live a life of success. But he says some of the reasons might be that Hashem knows for that person who's struggling, this is the best thing for him. Because if he had too much wealth, he would be using it in this world, living up life in this world, enjoying it too much, and he will end up suffering in the world to come because of it, because he's going to be using up his schar, his reward in this world. So the best thing for him is not to have a life of tremendous affluence. And for the other person, Hashem knows that the test of affluence is the best test for him, and that he needs this wealth. Because he ultimately, for his life or for his neshama, the best thing is for him to have wealth. For whatever reason, maybe because he needs that test, or maybe Hashem wants to give him the reward in this world, or maybe his job is to actually use that money for good things, and Hashem knows he's the best person to do it with, to give him, that he'll be able to give charity and help people. Maybe some people have sins that they need to be cleansed. So Hashem says, okay, you'll suffer a little bit in this world. Maybe other people have a few merits that Hashem wants to pay back in this world. So he gives them wealth in this world, and they end up not having in the world to come. There's so many different variables of why people in this world needs very wealthy people, very poor people, middle class people, people working hard and making money, people working less hard and not making money, people working less hard and making a lot of money. There are so many variables in it. But what we have to walk away from the Manna is, what we have to walk away from this teaching is, that in the end of the day, from Hashem's perspective, it's only being sent to us good. There's no such thing as Hashem sending down poverty, sending down destruction. From Hashem, it's all good. It's all up to the receiver of how he receives it. And he says, why is it that these three challenges of security, of shelter, and of money is being given to the Jewish people now, and then Hashem gives them the Torah? To say, because next week's parsha, we're going to receive the Torah, right? Yeah. Next week's parsha Yisrael. So the Alshich says to say that the antidote to all these issues, in the end of the day, if you want to make yourself a better vessel, if you want to make yourself the best vessel possible, to be able to be the vessel to accept Hashem's good in its best way, in its best manner, is by studying the Torah, living with the values of the Torah, living with the ideals of the Torah, and living with Emunah. And if a person makes himself a better vessel, then he will absolutely see the rewards of his efforts. And he says that's what the pasuk ends off. The pasuk ends off right in the beginning of the parsha of Man. I will rain down upon you lechem min hashamayim, bread from heaven. And like we said earlier, the people will have to go out and every single day live with the emunah, with the belief in Hashem, that I have enough for today. I'm going to take what I only need for today. And I'm going to believe with the emunah and the belief in Hashem that what I'm going to need tomorrow, Hashem is going to send me. And not only will Hashem send it to me tomorrow, He will send me exactly what I need. Ish lefi achloi. Each person according to his needs. And that He's not going to forsake me. He's not going to do what's not good for me. In the end of the day, everything is going to be perfect. Because as it says, that there is no evil that comes down from heaven. And what does the pasuk end off? Leman anisenu. I am going to test them. Hayelich b'teirasi imlai. I'm going to test them. Are they going to follow my Torah or not? This means, says the Alshich, I'm going to test them to see, are they going to take this message and make themselves better vessels to be able to receive the abundance and the blessing in a more clear and abundant manner. How are they going to do this? Hayelich b'teirasi, that they go in my Torah. If they connect to my Torah, they connect with the words of Emunah, they connect to the message of the Torah, they live with the values of the Torah, then they are in fact making themselves a better vessel. And this will give them a better shot at having everything that they need, and not only that, in a clearer manner. Because like we said, sometimes a person has to suffer, and that's the best thing for him. But of course, in the end of the day, we hope that we don't have to go through that. Our hope is that we don't have to go through suffering. Our hope is that we are the best vessels possible, and that we receive Hashem's blessing directly, the way it comes down from us, out from Hashem's mouth. We don't want it to go through all the channels and have to go through all these different issues. We believe that when it comes to us, these issues, it's still the best for us. We understand that when we have these sufferings, it's what we need. The people in Sodom needed the Asian Gulfers, the fire. People in Egypt needed the barb. That we don't want that. We would rather it be received directly from Hashem's mouth. And how is it set out from Hashem's mouth? Only with good. And that's our blessing. That's our hope. That's what we're praying for. So the idea is that the Alshich is saying that we have to realize that Parnasa and everything else is taken care of from Hashem's perspective. We don't have to remind Hashem to give us Parnasa. We don't have to remind Hashem that, don't forget about us. Hashem has everything taken care of. And He could send us things, He could send us whatever He needs in ways we can't imagine. But it's our job to be the best vessel possible to accept those blessings. And that's the message of the Manna. And these are some of the teachings that the Alshich wanted us to walk away with and glean from the Parshas Haman. So with that, our blessing is for everyone here that we should have everything we need, berevach, with abundance, with clarity, with everything we need. But more than everything we need, we should have the clarity of mind to understand that everything we have is exactly what we need. That exactly what we have right now, each person has what they need for today, and that's what matters. And we live with the Emunah of Hashem, that all we have to do is make ourselves a better vessel, and that will make us the best person possible.